It's happened again, and we all know what to do in the result of a terrorist attack, don't we? We add a nice little banner here, and of course the all-important hashtags, and we're good to go. Now, admittedly, this didn't stop the most recent attacks from happening, or the ones before, or indeed any attack in history. But it's gotta work at some point, right? On with the video. Hello Internet, this is TheStabbyBrit. I recently took a survey on voteforpolicies.org.uk. Quite an interesting one. I think it's worth a look, especially if, like me, you are British. Because after all, at the time of making this video, there's only about 4 days before the general election. So it's very important you're voting for the correct party. Which is, of course, anyone but the Tories. Don't believe me? Just check out this site and see for yourself. Now, the way Vote for Policies works is that you can take a quiz where you're presented with policies without being told which party they come from. Now, some of them are really easy to spot, but if you answer honestly and just pick the one you most agree with, and I do warn you, some of them are very similar, so just keep that in mind. But you pick the policies you agree with, and then at the end you get a pie chart like this, and it tells you how often you supported the various parties. Now, this is my result, and honestly I'm quite surprised. I'm really not surprised I got such a big chunk of UKIP, because, frankly, I agree very strongly with UKIP's policy on immigration, and apparently I agree with them on a few other things as well. What surprised me, though, was the fact I wasn't really supporting the Greens that often. I only supported them on one policy. I also want to point out that I didn't actually answer every section of this quiz. I skipped out the equality section completely, because, well, you have to pick at least one policy from any section you agree to do, and I disagreed with all the equalities sections. They all basically had something in them which said, we want to put women and minorities into positions of power and influence based on their genitalia and skin colour. This is completely against my personal beliefs. Now, let's have a look at see how other people answered this quiz. And here we are. Now, obviously, this is not exactly a representative sample of the British population, but it does have 144,000 responses, and I think by now it's closer to 170,000. So it's an interesting little slice of our dear community. And what I find interesting is just how popular the Green Party is. And really, this is the point of this website. The idea is to show you that if you voted for people based on policy, not based on party, then a lot of the minor parties would probably do much better, and the big parties would probably do much worse. And on that note, I'd like to show you how the different sections broke down, because some of these results are actually quite amusing. So let's start with health. You can see Labour is the most popular, with the Tories in second place with about 20% of support. Sadly, this is just proof that going off policies and not going off track record is a bit of a flawed system. Obviously, if we actually judge the Tories on the truth, then they should be down in the 1% margin. But still, it shows how effective lying in politics is. Labour also does well in the economy, while the Greens are the top at jobs at work. Now, what amuses me here is that on jobs at work, the Tories only have about 10% of people supporting them. This is rather ironic, given the Tory party's position of Albrecht Mac Frey. I'm sorry, that's a completely different political party. I, of course, meant to say, making work pay. Apparently, they are not. And this is supported by the fact that they are also the lowest on tax and benefits. But perhaps my favourite part of this is Europe and Brexit, where the Green Party apparently have the best policy. Then, of course, there's dear old UKIP in second to last. Rather sad for a party that built their entire campaign around Brexit. I guess now that Brexit is happening, they really don't have a platform to run on. But of course, then there's the Tory party. Do you remember why this general election was called? To give May a stronger position from which to argue for Brexit. And look how people think of her policy. Dead fucking stone last. They're also last in education. Apparently the 6.8 pence per student breakfast hasn't gone down very well. And if we continue through the rest of the policies, we can see even more hilarity. There is, of course, the obvious hilarity of the spectacular failure of the Tories on every single front. I do notice, though, there's a rather pathetic result in Labour's foreign policy and defence. Apparently they need to work on that quite a lot. And not very good on democracy either. Dear me, not very promising there, Labour. This is somewhere where the Greens shine, and I'm pretty sure I picked their democratic policy as well. But, speaking of the Greens, I cannot help but notice that on the environment, a policy which the Greens were founded on, they come in third. And they lose to the Liberal Democrats, of all people. They're not even a real party. Oh dear. Yeah, UKIP win immigration. Of course they do. UKIP are the only party with a sensible immigration policy, which is close the fucking border. The Greens come dead last, which is a shame. And it's not really surprising. The biggest failure of the Greens, in my opinion, is they have a really strong economic policy. The idea of universal living wage. But you just cannot implement that with an open border. And the Greens don't understand that. They really don't. Crime. UKIP does very well as well. I'm not sure, but I think theirs was the policy which basically said, you know, we can bring back police profiling. Bring back racial profiling. You know, we all know Muslims commit a disproportionate amount of crime, so it's right that stop and searches are done against Muslims. This isn't racist. This is common sense. But Liberal Democrats apparently do quite well. So, yeah, this is all interesting and entertaining. And I do recommend you go have a look yourself. Even if you're not in the UK, this might be fun to try. Just see where you land on our political spectrum. So that's it, really. Short and sweet one today. I just really wanted to bring this all to your attention because I think it's worth looking at. And if you are not decided who to vote for, well, maybe this will help. Seriously, just take the quiz. Find out whose policies you agree with the most, and, well, vote based on that. Can't hurt, right? TheStabbyBrit. Stood on a random tower. Why the hell did I come up here anyway? I've completely forgotten. Oh well. See you next time.